Welcome to Step Up with DL Walker. At any time during our live vidcast premiere, you can ask questions of myself or our guests by typing your question in the box called Top Chat, located in the right-hand corner of your screen. If you're watching a recording and have a question, just type your questions in the comments box below, and we'll be sure to respond. At any time, check out the information box because it contains contact information and special offers from DL and our guests. That's located underneath this video. Enjoy the vidcast, and if you find this information helpful, please give it a like and share it with anyone whom you feel may benefit. Thanks so much for watching, stepping up for your health, and please do be in touch. After years of living as a high-functioning anxious overthinker, Ellen eventually reached a tipping point after 2 hospitalizations related to burning out. Although she appeared like she had it all together, she secretly lived with never-ending mental chatter that left her feeling overwhelmed, anxious, exhausted, and unhappy. Realizing that this was not how she wanted to spend the rest of her life, she set out to learn how to stop overthinking and reframe her negative thought patterns. She even traveled to the happiest countries on earth to learn about happiness. Now, as a naturopathic doctor and the founder of the Joy Avenue, Ellen works with women to transform their overwhelm, worry, and anxiousness into calm, confidence, and joy. But what she's most passionate about is helping women prioritize their happiness as much as their success. So welcome, Ellen. Thank you so much for being on the show and talking about, I think it's been kind of a hidden secret or kind of a new word. And once again, when I interview people, I oftentimes see myself in the particular subject's shoes. So I believe that I've probably been functioning or had functioned with high functioning anxiety for a very long time. So what is it exactly?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me and inviting me. It's always good to chat with you. Okay, so to answer your question, I think you've almost kind of nailed it even in the introduction when you talked about it, which is this whole thing about functioning but feeling anxious. And it is true. It's kind of a newer term. And it's something that I think a lot of women, especially women, experience. And so in the name, it's high functioning anxiety, which is exactly a woman who feels very overwhelmed, very stressed out, quite anxious. But what separates them from maybe what is our traditional concept of anxiety is that they're extremely high functioning. And so if we take a step back and we look at this kind of diagnosis of anxiety, there's many, many ways and questionnaires that you can take that can give you a fairly accurate understanding of whether you fit on the traditional scale of anxious or anxiety or not. One of those questions is often, is the anxiety causing functional impairment? Functional impairment is just a medical term for, is this what you're experiencing affecting your life? Most often that concept of is it affecting your quote unquote life is working and relationships. It's, are you working? Can you seek help if you needed it? Like that's the concept and the definition of are you functioning? So more often than not, and myself included, when I was going through a lot of this, was that my work wasn't affected at all. I was, if anything, excelling. But the drive behind that excelling at work and the drive behind me being, super high performing is not coming from a place of calm and confidence. It's coming from a place of anxiety. So if I were to paint a picture, a woman with high functioning anxiety is typically somebody who is a successful achiever who on the outside appears very put together and calm and confident, but internally they're struggling. There's a lot of negative self-talk, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of what ifs. They have trouble saying no. There's a lot of people pleasing. They're often physically and mentally exhausted because their mind doesn't stop. Their mind's constantly going. Even if they're supposed to be having self-care time or downtime or spending time with loved ones when they're supposed to be present, like they just actually can't because their mind is going a million miles a minute and not stopping. But you wouldn't think that that's happening if you were to just observe this person on the outside.
So is this something that develops, or is this something that you're born with?
I think that it's something that develops, but there are people, I think, who have a higher risk, maybe, or they're more prone to developing high functioning anxiety. And I think this has a lot to do with both that whole nature nurture conversation. I think there's a bit of it that's like you've kind of semi inherited these thought patterns, and then it's reinforced because one, maybe you grew up in a family that pushed for a lot of achievement and a lot of success. We're also in a society where, as women, we're told that a successful woman, there's an image. The successful woman is the one who is excelling in their career and managing everything home, right? Like we have this automatic image of what society defines a successful woman to be. And I think all of those end up playing a role in kind of propelling this anxiousness that's driving the high achiever.
Mm-hmm. And so what are some of the symptoms?
So I divide them usually into several categories: emotional symptoms, behavioral symptoms, and physical symptoms. And so the physical symptoms are perhaps a little bit easier to describe in that typically exhaustion, no matter what you do. Potentially some difficulty sleeping, whether it's falling asleep or having good quality sleep. Just feeling digestive issues. So like either whether it's like knots in your stomach or IBS or, appetite fluctuations, emotional eating, headaches, aches and pains, things like that. So it's kind of like semi-non-specific physical feelings that can often be tied to a whole bunch of things, but then are more often than not aggravated by stress. So that's the physical symptom. Then we have the emotional symptoms, which are feeling anxious and worried, even if things are going really well. Okay. They have difficulty relaxing. So a lot of mental preoccupation with thoughts, a lot of fear of failure and rejection, worrying about what other people think of you, lots of negative self-talk, which then leads to low self-confidence, feeling not good enough, not smart enough, lots of feelings of guilt, anger, resentment, frustration, irritability, things like that. And then the behavioral symptoms that come with that, which includes always striving for perfectionism because we're worried about what other people think of us, workaholism, right? Always, always moving, always, always on the go. There's always something that needs to be done. A lot of overthinking, overanalyzing, a lot of what if thoughts, second guessing choices after you make them, lots of difficulty saying no, even if you logically understand the request isn't one that you should be saying yes to. You say yes to it anyways. Like I said, lots of people pleasing, and sometimes then some escapism behavior too, right? Whether it's procrastination, emotional eating, or, working really, really, really hard and then crashing and then repeating that cycle.
Mm. Okay. And at that point, what are some of the consequences of not addressing it?
I think it can turn, so, combining all of the not sleeping well, possibly not eating well, not taking care of yourself, all of those things combined lead to usually either full-blown anxiety, where now you are at a point where you honestly can't work because you're completely crashing, or full-on burnout because there's only so much you can do before your body just says, no, I can't do it anymore, right? Whether it's because you're like not letting yourself relax, whether it's you're taking on projects that you don't have the capacity to take on anymore because you're constantly pushing yourself, right? Remember, these people are your type A overachievers. So they're constantly pushing themselves to achieve more and more and more. And eventually you just can't keep up with that. Your body doesn't have the ability to keep up with that kind of output, and then you burn out.
Okay. And how do you know that you're at that point where you're, you're ready to seek help? What are some of those signs?
I think if you I think if you start to realize that you're one of the kind of prominent signs with the clients that I work with is this feeling of like, I know I'm supposed to do self-care, but I can't relax enough to do it, or I always find a reason not to do it because I'm doing something else for somebody. Mm-hmm. So it's this underlying tone of always feeling worried and anxious and not able to relax, even if things are actually going very smoothly. That's like a very cardinal sign. Okay. And so with that, then there's a cascade of like behaviors that you try to do to cope, and you start trying to piecemeal it together. Like, oh, maybe I'll just exercise a bit more, or maybe I'll just eat healthier, or maybe I'll do a cleanse, or maybe I'll try meditation, or maybe I'll try journaling. And then people start piecemealing it all together. Mm-hmm. And it often doesn't work well, because with high functioning anxiety, there's such a cycle of everything. You almost need to know what specific things can be used to break which parts of the cycle, mm-hmm. in order for you to reset.
Right. And how do you identify that?
So one of the things that I will use with clients is I get them to do a high functioning anxiety quiz. And so what this quiz looks like is it helps you first of all identify whether it is something that you're struggling with. And it breaks it down into the different symptoms, those behavioral, physical, and emotional symptoms. And from the results of that quiz, then we can kind of be able to recommend something that actually makes sense for where you are, right? I'm a very, very huge supporter of meeting the client where they are at, because if you don't, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what maybe eating well is a solution. And I talk a lot about eating because the way we fuel ourselves can change our mood and how we feel. And there's definitely correlation between how we eat during a day and whether we feel anxious, mid-morning, mid-afternoon, in the evening, things like that. But maybe even though that's a solution, maybe that's not the right solution at this point. Sure. Because a good example is you don't believe that you're worthy, mm-hmm. of actually getting better. Maybe you have an innate belief that you're always anxious. I've always been anxious my whole life. This mm-hmm. is just who I am. Right. If you fundamentally believe that about yourself, it doesn't matter what I tell you mm-hmm. to do, because you won't make the change, because you're like, well, it doesn't matter. I'll try it for like a week. You'll hit like a bump in the road, and then it'll be, well, I was always anxious, so this isn't going to work, right? There's different areas that you actually do have to address in the right order, depending on what is affecting that person most. And that would be what would be revealed in the quiz, mm-hmm. which is found in the information box below, by the way. So you can feel free to, if any of this resonates, definitely click on that and go ahead and assess where you are at the moment. I'm looking forward to doing that myself. So, all right. So we've identified a problem. Well, then what? Then it's about coming to the solutions. And one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about talking about high functioning anxiety is that I really feel like for this subset, and I keep saying women because that's the majority of the people that I work with, but and this is, again, like, it's not to say there's not a time and place for medication, but that's not the solution these women want, because the medication is meant to help with specific things when it comes to anxiety. That's not what these women need. They are worried about taking anxiety medication to fall asleep, because they know that long-term, that's not the solution they want. They don't want to take anti-anxiety medication before they go and do a presentation at work, because they don't want to feel groggy and kind of like that kind of zoned out kind of calm. They need to be on and mm-hmm. calm, right? And so when I started researching this a lot for myself, I realized that there are actually very few resources out there that are directed specifically for high functioning anxiety. Again, it's not that meditation doesn't work, but when your mind is going a million miles a minute, you can't tell someone to just sit down and meditate, because not how it works, right? And so one of the things is I would recommend is like speak to somebody who specifically understands the concept of high functioning anxiety and what that experience is like. You need to be able to work with somebody who understands that you want to maintain your drive. It's not that you want to treat this and stop achieving. You have big goals. You want to keep achieving those goals. We need to find you a way to support your ambition and what you want to achieve while feeling calm and confident and happy and at peace and joy and all the things that you ultimately want to experience in life, right? So look for recommendations that speak specifically about high functioning anxiety. Look for that person's understanding and the fact that you don't want a Band-Aid solution and you want something that's going to help you maintain your drive and your output, but helping you build calm and confidence as well. And so part of my approach to working with women with high functioning anxiety is offering them a specific course online that you can do at your own pace. It's very practical. All the strategies in there are specifically targeted for high functioning anxiety, and it goes through all of those kind of behavioral, emotional, and physical signs and symptoms and how you can address them. And it goes through in a very systematic order that makes sense for implementation. And because you end up having access to that course lifetime, you are always able to go back and I will teach in the course like how to implement and in what order that makes sense for you. So that's kind of one of the solutions that I often offer women who work with me. If you live in Ontario in Canada, I'm also a trained naturopathic doctor, so I will offer one-on-one support from that perspective. Very detailed information with respect to dietary things and supplements and that kind of information. And then the last approach that I often offer, and this is very, very specific for the negative self-talk that comes with high functioning anxiety. The I'm not good enough, that I need to be doing more, that I should be doing more. What will other people think of me? I'm worried about failure. Like all of these things, I use a specific methodology called Creatrix, which is kind of like a revolutionary approach to dealing with negative self-talk. It will help you completely reframe those thoughts and the emotions that those thoughts come with or lead to, I should say, things like the anger and the disappointment and the guilt and the shame and the fear, like all that kind of stuff. So Creatrix is like kind of an all-in-one approach that helps you reframe all of those feelings and thoughts within a month of us working together. And that's one of the beauties of Creatrix, is that it can not only resolve all of these thought patterns and feelings, it's also the only mindset tool in the world that offers you an outcome guarantee, which I think is pretty unique. As a matter of fact, I don't think there's any other approach out there in the world that can offer this. So the guarantee, the outcome guarantee, is that if you and I work together one-on-one within a month, all of these chronic negative self-talk thought patterns and these chronic negative emotions will be gone and they won't come back.
And that is a money-back guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's 100%?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Awesome. And how many visits do you do with Creatrix? You said it's a month. So what's involved with that?
So with Creatrix, we start off with determining whether it's the right fit for you, because I'm not going to offer that if that's not the right fit for what you need at this particular point. And then we go through a specific set of journaling exercises that are very, very specific for Creatrix, and it will help me outline all of the negative thought patterns you're experiencing, some of which are probably hidden and you're not realizing that they're actually negative thought patterns. So in the journaling exercises, I'll be able to pick all of those out. With women, my kind of what I typically see is about 30 to 50 of these thought patterns and negative emotions that I can identify through your journaling. And then once we get that list set up, it's on average those 3 to 5 sessions for us to clear all of those things with that money back guarantee. But again, another really great thing about Correctrix is that the guarantee is the outcome. The outcome of clearing this entire list of 30 to 50 issues that we identify. So it doesn't actually matter how many sessions we need to work together. If it's 3 to 5, great. If it's less, even better. If it's more, we will work together and I will be by your side to support you throughout that entire process, no matter how long it takes and how many sessions it takes. But on average, it's 3 to 5 sessions.
Okay. And about done. And can you do it at your own pace with you? Can you work it around your schedule?
Absolutely. Yep.
So there's no downside in doing it. Like let's say you're going on vacation or something like that. There's no negative effect that you'll bounce back or anything like that.
Nope, not at all. We will always, I'll always sit down and work with my clients in terms of figuring out a schedule. I do like to space the sessions about 5 to 7 days apart, but there's always exceptions to this. There's no danger or harm in doing it less than 5 days, more than 7 days. It works really well, spacing them out between 5 to 7 days, because there are kind of trackers that I'll give you in between our sessions to make sure we're on track and that you're on track. And so, yeah, for sure, the 5 to 7 days is kind of what works best, but I've obviously had exceptions. There are sometimes long weekends and people want to go away for a weekend or whatever, right? And so for sure, like we'll work around that. And the other great thing is that it's online. So you can be anywhere in the world and we will just figure out time zones. We will figure out what that looks like for the two of us to work together.
Sure. Yeah, I do that too. So yes, sometimes time zones are a little crazy.
Yeah.
But excellent. And speaking of time, thank you. I think we've covered everything, and really excited that you were able to kind of share and put a face to a problem that is really it's kind of a silent killer emotionally. They talk about heart attacks being the silent killer physically. I almost believe that it's a silent killer because people are just like, yeah, like you said, I've been this way all my life. I don't know any different. Things are good, but again, there's that innate feeling that that somebody will have that is that telltale sign that this is a point where this is not normal.
Yeah, and I think to your point about that whole telltale point thing is a lot of these like you'll know this is you if you've kind of tried a whole bunch of things and it's not working. I've kind of tried meditating. I've kind of tried journaling. I've kind of tried self-help books. I've kind of tried affirmations, cleaning up my diet. Like I've done all the little things, but I just can't nip it in the butt.
Yeah.
That feeling, and if you have it, you know what I'm talking about. That feeling is a good signal that there's probably some high functioning anxiety in there. And that needs to be addressed, or else you'll just keep trying to piecemeal it together and it's not going to get you through that breakthrough that you need.
Yeah. I was just having this conversation with somebody who's done a lot of work, and maybe this will help articulate it as well to some people who aren't quite sure. But what she expressed to me, she gave me a scenario. She's like, I know this shouldn't bother me. I know how I should be reacting, right? She's like, but I'm not feeling it. I want to not feel it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that is, that's just another idea about when you should go ahead and take this test. And then I'm assuming that the test will show you what level of anxiety you're dealing with. So awesome diagnostic tool. Very excited to try it out. And anyone who's listening where any of this has resonated, certainly go ahead and click the button underneath and find out for yourself. And it's just click a button away. So thank you, Ellen, for joining me. It was so good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm glad you're well.
All right. And we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Step Up with DL Walker. For any information about our guest, it'll be found in the comments box below this video. For more information on how you can recover from injury, restore vitality, and gain resilience from disease and trauma, all in the comfort of your home, click the link on the screen. Until next time, take good care of your body, mind, and spirit. It's the only true home that you really have.